Well, I think it's always good to orient ourselves to where we are in the liturgical year, and here we are in the second week of Lent. And I will tell you that on occasion during Lent, I have put down my Lenten resolutions that I had picked up on Ash Wednesday. And maybe you've done the same this year. But there's 5 more weeks before Easter, so we've got plenty of time to pick them up. But I'll give you some ideas a little later. This first reading from Genesis should really cause fear and trembling. It's not meant to be glossed over. I'm a cradle Catholic. I grew up over on Wilshire Terrace here in Oklahoma City, and as a 6-year-old, only son, I set up the garage as the interior of a church. And as it would be, I preached on this very first reading, because apparently as an only son child of my parents, it struck great fear and trembling in my heart. What we have presented here today are 2 bookends of salvation. On one, we have Abraham and Isaac. God promised Abraham that he would be the beginning of a generation that God would show his presence to the world through his son Isaac, who came to him in very late age with Sarah. And on the other bookend of salvation, we have Jesus Christ. On the front bookend, we have Isaac loaded up with the wood of the sacrifice on his back. On the other bookend, we have Jesus Christ carrying his cross. On the front bookend, we have Isaac climbing the mountain with his father. On the other bookend, we have Jesus Christ climbing Golgotha as God the Father watched. There are no coincidences, none. Isaac is the beloved son of Abraham and Sarah, just, if not more, as Jesus Christ is the only begotten, beloved Son of God the Father. So what we're being presented here is what Bishop Barron calls the spiritual test in all capital letters. The test is, do you love God, or do you love the benefits of God more? Let me say that again. Do you love God, or do you love the benefits of God more? I didn't catch it, but just before our gospel reading, it says that Jesus and the apostles journeyed for 6 days. That's an analogy to the 6 days of creation. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a heretic. I don't believe in dualism. I'm not a Gnostic. God's creation is wonderful. But the spiritual test is, do we worship those creations more than we worship God himself? So here we are at the Transfiguration. And just before this, in the book of Mark, we're presented with Jesus telling his apostles for the very first time, I must suffer at the hands of the Jewish high priests and the Roman authorities. In addition to suffering, I'm going to die. And this is when Peter exclaimed and Jesus said, "Get behind me, Satan." So at this point, all the apostles are in fear and trembling. And this transfiguration of Jesus Christ in front of them is the counterbalance. He's offering hope. It's also the second time, that Jesus was revealed in a theophany. God the Father in the voice, "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." The Holy Spirit in the bright cloud, and Jesus Christ in himself. From the time of Jesus' incarnation, his humanity outshone in his countenance his divinity. But here in the Transfiguration, He allows his divinity to outshine his humanity, to give those apostles hope that the glorified body and what heaven would look like, because I think they're beginning to get the idea that they're going to suffer too. It took 3 witnesses in Jewish tradition at the time to be a witness to an event to say that it was true. That's why Jesus took Peter, James, and John up the mountain. Jesus not only is encouraging the apostles by showing forth his divinity, he's encouraging each one of us. Because just like the apostles, we too suffer in this material world, this broken world. But we're offered the hope of our salvation through Jesus Christ, that we too may participate in the divine and be glorified in the end as we go about this pilgrimage here on earth. So here in the Mass, Jesus reveals his glorified self to us in the Eucharist, offering us to us each Mass his glorified self. So I would ask all of us, including myself, as you go back to your seat after communion, think about where in life do you worship the benefits of God more than God himself? And for the remaining weeks of Lent, how, with the help of Jesus, can you overcome those ideals where you worship his creation more than God himself? And all of this ties into the ACA campaign, the annual Catholic Appeal. And you're probably wondering, all right, how did the little deacon tie all of this together? Well, that's a good question. You may remember that Jennifer Yardley, one of our parishioners, who also works on the campaign for the annual Catholic Appeal, came up here last Sunday at Mass, and from her heart expressed that without the benefit of the ACA and all of us working together, we would not have the benefit of the vocation that brought us Father John Paul Lewis. Without our collective effort towards the ACA, we would not have Henry Wynne in his 6th year of seminary. 5th year of seminary. We would not have Rendon Chambers in his 6th year of seminary, and next weekend we'll go through the minor rite of candidacy. That's the recognition from the Church that he is on the final road, God willing, to the priesthood. But without our collective effort, we would not have priests to offer us the glorious mystery of Jesus revealed in the glory of the Eucharist. Last year, we raised about $146,000 at our parish alone. The goal was $150,000. This year, the goal is $151,000, just $1,000 more. But now that we know that information, I think we all can work together for the greater good of our parish and our archdiocese to assist with the annual Catholic Appeal. So with that, I'd ask you, look at the end of the pews, pass one of these envelopes with forms to the middle. See if I can do this. Rip it apart, and then I'm going to go over there and fill mine out, and then at that time, I'll come up and ask the ushers to come pick them up.